it's Cash again. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. In this video, I'm going to do one thing. The transition pictures for rock legend Jim Morrison, who died in 1971 at the age of 27. He was very, very young, in Paris, of supposedly heart failure. Although many, many people think it was a heroin overdose. Now, I'll be honest with you, I know nothing about Jim Morrison. I mean, I do now because I looked it up, but when I did the pictures, I knew nothing at all. I couldn't name you one song he ever wrote or sang. Apparently there's one called Light My Fire, which I have heard, but I didn't know it was him. So I was a completely blank slate when it came to this guy. Turns out he had a very troubled childhood. His father was an admiral, very, very strict, and because Jim was a military kid, he was constantly moving around. His parents actually believed in punishing their children by simply berating them, yelling and yelling and yelling, telling them they were no good until they cried. You've got no talent, is what his father told him. Hey, I've been there. I know that hurts, and it can throw off your game for decades. So it's probably no surprise that he ended up with an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction. At one point he lived on a rooftop in Venice, apparently, subsisting on a diet of beans and LSD. The more famous he got, the more troubled he became. He was so disturbed at times that he had a Jekyll and Hyde personality. Sweet, but then horrible when he'd been drinking. So the fact that he died young probably came as no surprise to anybody. As I said, I knew nothing about him at all. But when somebody suggested, hey, do Jim Morrison? I looked up his photo, and immediately all these pictures came flooding into my head. I went into this environment that I normally see. This cave environment, metaphorical, symbolic. Jim Morrison was lying on a tabletop. It had no supports. It was just floating in midair. I tried to wake him, insofar as I can ever interact at all, which I can't really, but I like to feel I can. I tried to wake him up. Wouldn't budge. I waited and waited, and there was nothing. In fact, I think I tried 3 times to see if he would move, and he would not move. And I almost gave up at that point. Didn't understand why there was no energy there. And just as I was about to withdraw from these pictures, because sometimes I just try another time, and then it works out. It's just me, my brain. Just as I was about to withdraw, I noticed some movement over here out of the corner of my eye. I looked over, and coiled around the floor beside this sloping table was a snake, like a boa constrictor, gigantic snake. I'm not a big fan of snakes. The fact that it suddenly appeared in my sight shocked me. I was really alarmed. It was huge. But of course I'm not there, really. I shouldn't worry. And anyway, it began uncoiling and headed towards the tunnel that I always see. Fast, actually. It went really fast. So I left Jim Morrison there on the sloping table and followed the snake up the tunnel at speed. It went up and up and up and up. And you know where I normally see a kind of symbolic light, a dome? That dome was not there, but the hole in which it stood, the crater in which it stood, was there. And this gigantic snake comes shooting up the tunnel and plunges into this hole. Down, down, down. Flips its tail, goes. Normally I leave it there. It's done, they're gone. But of course he hadn't gone. The snake had gone. Whatever that represented, his demons, his addictions, his fears, his screwed up mind. I have no idea. Whatever that represented, that was gone. But he was still on the table. I walked down the tunnel. The table has tilted and he has slid off it, and now he's sitting on the floor, awake. With the snake gone, he is free to be authentic, to proceed with his normal transition, probably. He stands up, and the architecture of this place changes according to the needs of the person, like expressing how they're feeling and so on. It's not static, it's not fixed. He walks over and there is an enormous spotlight on one wall, and he stands in it in silhouette and looks out. Now you might say, well, he's a rock star, so that's just symbolic of the rock star lifestyle. But I did David Bowie, I did Freddie Mercury. They're rock stars. They didn't have any of this performance going on. This was still clinging on to what he had experienced in life. His demons had gone, whatever those represented. And now he was still in that in-between time of his ego being attached to where he'd come from, which is special in mortal terms, but certainly not in spiritual terms. You can't hang on to that stuff. You can't take it with you, literally. You can't take it with you. Fame, money, success, talent. You don't have a legacy when you cross over. It's just your consciousness and your soul transitioning. Once he'd stood in the spotlight for a while and realized that instead of being warm and comforting, it was actually just cool and irrelevant. It had no power anymore. He stepped out and he starts walking up the tunnel. But he does it in such a strange way that I have not seen before. Chest out, bravely, like somebody in a movie who's going to collect a medal. Or like when you are about to have a cold shower or stand under a waterfall and you brace yourself. I will be strong. I can handle this. I am a star. That kind of thing. It was like so involved in itself. So much confusion about what was authentic and what wasn't. What the soul wanted and what it didn't. And I think this was probably the issue with him. In the end, he didn't know what his soul was trying to say to him. This caused an incongruence, cognitive dissonance, confusion. And at this point he was going, I don't care anymore. I'm going to just brave it out. Take me. Let's just see what happens. And he just put his chest out and walked up the tunnel. When he got to the top, he wasn't even focused on where he was or anything. He just walks straight to the dome, which now had a light in it, steps into it and walks on. Let's see where this takes me. And off he goes. Maybe there has to be a two-stage process. Our demons, that is to say, the problems we've had in life that we've not been able to shake off, simply peel away and vanish, leaving us pure and an empty vessel, ready to receive infinite, unconditional love. Maybe that's it. Only in his case, there was so much ego stuff wrapped up in it, so many leftover issues that he hadn't dealt with, that were just too much of a bundle of problems to simply be dealt with by grace. Unconditional love was still waiting for him, like it is for us all. And perhaps for the first time ever, he had that. But in the meantime, the confusion that his life caused for him, that his childhood caused for him, meant that before he could fully cross over, something had to be removed. The barriers to a peaceful transition had to be disposed of before he could have a happy crossing. This snake, I think, represented poison he had held in from his childhood. And it fueled his creative abilities, his performance on stage. It made him a legend in earthly terms. But the torment he felt on the inside, the suffering, was too much to bear. And he died at 27. And that's it. Alrighty, so thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Subscribe, like, share, please. If you would, that'd be great. Or follow me on Twitter at Cash Peters. Otherwise, I'll see you very soon, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.